The World Bank loaned almost $100 million to a group in Brazil, the country's largest exporter of beef, and cutting down rainforests to create pasture lands for beef is one of the biggest sources of deforestation, therefore carbon emissions. The World Bank's own internal watchdog group concluded the project was a risk from the environment, yet it went ahead. And maybe, are you familiar with that project?
It's a routine project.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, this is where we are always making judgments. What's the without the bank scenario? So in this case, this was an IFC project, a private sector project. I think the IFC felt if we're in this project, we can help make this company more sustainable, make sure that there's actually sustainable livestock practices in the country. There were a series of agreements, of standards that the company was going to have to meet. And in the event, that didn't happen, and so the IFC actually canceled that project recently. And
the interesting footnote is that Greenpeace issued a report about deforestation in the Amazon and the impact of cattle grazing on deforestation, a contributor to deforestation. And within a month, Nike announced that they were going to require all of their leather suppliers to certify that the companies selling leather to Nike, that it doesn't come from deforesting the Amazon, which I thought was a pretty interesting example of an NGO applying some pressure and a corporation saying, look, we don't want to touch this because of our brand risk. So Evase, we've talked about technology. What other roles can corporations play as advocates and really connecting their brand to some of these climate change issues?
Well, I think corporations have a huge stake in not only from their internal practices, like Kathy talked about earlier, but in terms of their brands as they go into markets that they're not familiar with. You mentioned Nike. Nike, used to buy at one point 10, 15 years ago a lot of the things from parts of the world where labor laws were not standard, right? And then we saw 10, 15 years later, Nike pulled back from all of those practices too. And I think we're sort of seeing the same transition. And I think people in general in the world are getting conscious about the environmental impact for the things that they're buying, not just here in the West Coast, but I would actually say in the world in general. So I think corporations are actually playing a very active role. I think there's a lot of work to do, but I think that they have a major stake in fighting climate change.